Well, I am here with Mr. Tom at the Mathews Museum, and Goober wants to know what in the world is the Battle of Cricket Hill?
Well, I'd like to tell you about that, especially since this is an interesting day. In a few minutes, I've got to run over to Gwynn's Island for the Gwynn's Island Festival, where I'll be portraying, this is the third year, I think, portraying General Andrew Lewis, the leader of the 7th Virginia Cavalry. And back in July 9th, 1776, only 5 days after the signing of the Declaration of Independence, a battle occurred, a very, very important, not a huge battle, but one that was very important, called the Battle of Cricket Hill. And what happened in that battle, Lord Dunmore, the royal governor of Virginia, his forces had been thrown out of the Norfolk area, and he came to Gwynn's Island and the waters surrounding Gwynn's Island with his fleet of about 80 to 90 ships, all different sizes, both military and civilian. And they put out anchor in Hills Bay and Milford Haven, tethered them all together so they could go from one ship to another. And that was fine. He thought he was in a great place to shield himself from the rebels. But one day, while he was having his tea, sitting in his cabin on his main ship, the Dunmore, one of his sailors came to him and said, General, or Governor, he said, I have noticed that there are some rebels setting up cannons on the mainland, and they seem to be aiming them in our direction. So the governor said, well, as soon as I finish my tea, I will send a longboat of Marines over there and quickly dispatch with those little crickets on the hill. Well, those little crickets on the hill at about that time opened up with a volley of cannon fire. One of the first shells went through Lord Dunmore's cabin, smashing his prized tea set and putting a piece of wood through his leg. Terrified at that point, he yelled, retreat, everyone leave. The cannonballs were coming in fast and furious. However, there was no propulsion on the ships. There was no wind. The only thing they had to get them out of the area was an outgoing tide, which was maybe a half a knot. So the ships were being bombarded with cannon fire. They finally made it out, and that was the end of the royal governor of Virginia. There was never another British governor in Virginia. So even though that battle took place only 5 days after the signing of the Declaration, no one knew the Declaration had been signed because communications were so poor back then, that this was a remarkable feat, and it was pretty well shown as the first land-sea battle of the Revolution. It has gotten very little attention in the last several years, but we're hoping here at the Mathews Museum to keep that alive, that information on this being one of the first battle sites of the official revolution. You had Concord and Lexington and Bunker Hill in 1775 prior to the signing, but this was one of the first land-sea battles of the official revolution.
Wow, one quick question. Did they land the Marines, or did they didn't have time?
The Marines were encamped on Gwynn's Island at Fort Hammond. You had Marines and you had the Ethiopian Guard. One of the things that happened that really changed the situation was smallpox. And so many of the Ethiopian Guards and the Marines came down with smallpox, and each morning the victims that died during the night would be thrown off of the ships and thrown out from the land, and you had bloated, dead bodies submerged and floating in the water surrounding Gwynn's Island. It was a nasty situation, and that caused as much problem as the battle itself. But Lord Dunmore knew that his moments were up. He had to leave in a hurry, and they took what was remaining of his crew and his Marines and the Ethiopian Guard, and they took themselves along with their smallpox and quickly made haste to get away from Virginia, which was good for us.
All right. Anything else you'd like to say before we close out our video?
No, I think I appreciate you coming in, and we always welcome you and
Goober, the traveling bear.
Yes, our favorite traveling bear. And we hope you'll come back because we're in the middle of so much restoration here at the museum. And we're hoping by the end of August, everything will be finished and we're going to have a completely redone museum for everyone to see. It's going to be an amazing site. The people that have not been in here recently, they will notice some real differences.
All right. Stay safe, be kind, and be courteous, everyone. Thank you for watching.